starting off with the Jaguars hiring Doug Pederson. Doug Pederson is a Super Bowl winning head coach with the Eagles. Carson Wentz's rookie year had 16 touchdowns and 15 picks. Then he has this MVP level season in 2017 in his second season. Jaguars fans are hoping that can be Trevor Lawrence. Now, when this hire first happened, I saw a lot of mixed reactions on Twitter because I think the fan favorite was Byron Leftwich, but Leftwich didn't want to be there because of Trent Bulk and was trying to get somebody from Arizona. I'm forgetting his name. It's just escaping me right now. But ultimately, was Doug Pederson the right hire for Trevor Lawrence to fulfill his potential as a quarterback, touted as a generational guy? I mean, what do you think, Joe?
Not only do I think it's the right fit for Trevor Lawrence, I think this is a great fit just for the Jaguars in general, because number one is going to be Trevor Lawrence always, because if he fails, so does Doug Pederson and probably the entire staff, front office. You could see a whole reshuffle there. But the big thing we talked about this entire offseason, ever since Urban Meyer really got fired, is can you have someone who could come in and really reset the culture, because that's what the Jaguars need more than anything. And Dable was probably my favorite candidate coming out, but I think Pederson is probably the perfect fit for the Jaguars. You know, he's someone who played in the NFL for 14 years. He played in Europe too. He backed up Dan Marino and Brett Favre. He's been in 100 different locker rooms, so he knows all the different personalities. He has head coaching experience in Philly as well, so he's used to having control and being the head coach. And I think that goes a long way. And I even though I did like Leftwich as a candidate, I do understand why they want to go with someone who has head coaching experience and someone who has connection with quarterbacks too. You mentioned it. Multiple great seasons with Carson Wentz after kind of an up and down rookie year. His 2017 season was the MVP candidate, but even in 2018, when he did miss some time, he was really good, completing about 70% of his passes, 21-7 touchdown and interception ratio. He was averaging 280 yards a game. 2019, another great season. And then we know 2020 kind of, went off the rails a little bit, but even still, once he, managed his way through the Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts scenario, even Hurts played well down the stretch in those final 4 games too. And there are some rumors out there that his relationship with Wentz wasn't the great, and I know that could be something that some Jaguars fans are worried about, but in March of last season, after he got fired, he came out and he said, I don't think there's any bad blood between Wentz and I. He said he respected him. He complimented his leadership style as well. So I think that a lot of that is just nonsense, and we kind of think of Pederson in his last year of like, it all went up in flames. The last game against Washington where he sat Hurts for, I can't remember, the third string quarterback. And there's just all this nonsense going on. And the front office was getting involved in like play calling and game management. So it kind of left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. But I think Doug Pederson's a perfect fit for Jacksonville.
I don't mind the hiring. I don't mind it because, again, like Joel said perfectly, it's all about developing Trevor Lawrence. This is supposed to be a generational talent in Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall pick, the highest recruited football player in the history of the game. You want him to live up to the potential that everyone saw in him before he even took a snap in the NFL. So you bring in a guy who has great experience with working with the quarterback for years now, was a quarterback coach way back when, became a head coach. And I understand the signing because, like Joel said, and I agree fully, you want to put this guy in a position where, at the minimum, he's developing in the correct direction. And at least you're putting someone in place to do that. You're getting a guy who has a history of bringing a team to a Super Bowl, delivering a championship to a city that has never seen a Super Bowl. Now, kind of never was able to reach that level of success again after that one season. But the 2019 season where Carson Wentz basically put the Eagles on his back, you have to give credit to Doug Pederson there too, because as great as Wentz was, and I will give a good portion of the credit to Wentz for doing that, given the fact that he had barely any weapons to throw the football to outside of Zach Ertz, I will 100% give some credit to Doug Pederson to put up a scheme, to draw up a scheme where Carson Wentz is able to have success. That's credit to Doug Pederson. So putting Trevor in a situation that he can succeed in is the most important thing. After this past season where Trevor Lawrence was play after play after play, put in a position to fail, it's tough for me, as if I'm the owner of the Jags or head office of the Jags, to see this every week and not want to address it. So at least they're putting in a guy in place to benefit Trevor Lawrence, and that's a great idea. Now, the reason why I'm skeptical is because Doug Pederson isn't the most people-friendly individual. Maybe it's just what he delivers to the media. Maybe that's just what we see outside. But I have worries that there's going to be chemistry issues within the locker room. And we already have seen a dysfunction within the Jaguars already with Urban Meyer. And you would hate for it to be a repeat offense with Doug Pederson. But the main thing is keeping Trevor Lawrence happy and developing him. And I think that that's what will happen.
I think how the entire situation in Philadelphia ended was a bit weird. It was one of the more stranger situations that have ever happened in the NFL. Doug Pederson was tasked with keeping together a locker room that had already broken apart internally. You had one side on the Wentz wagon, you had one side on the Foles wagon. I can't think of another scenario where a team wins a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback when their starter led them to 13 wins that year. Doug Pederson, what he did with Nick Foles, and Nick Foles playing at a borderline elite level in the playoffs, I mean, not even borderline, he was elite. He outdueled Brady in the Super Bowl. Nobody could have predicted that. And Jaguars fans know firsthand that Nick Foles isn't very good because they signed him to a huge contract, due in part to that Super Bowl run. After Foles brought the Eagles to win the championship, and that's the first championship in NFL history, Carson Wentz gets signed to a gigantic extension. The Eagles basically said, Wentz is our guy, Foles is not. And the locker room was like, how? I mean, this guy just won us a championship. And Doug Pederson had to deal with that. And he had to deal with Carson Wentz's confidence going up and down. He did have good seasons after that, but he never performed. He never played in the playoffs for the Eagles. He played one game and wasn't even an entire first quarter. Got concussed and was out. And Josh McCown had to step in. So I feel like Doug Pederson gets some kind of leeway there. And then just last season there, Wentz just falls off a cliff, and Jalen Hurts is the one that people want to see. And he didn't handle that situation the best. Well, the Jacksonville, there is no doubt who the quarterback is.
Sure.
There is no split on any guy that's calling the plays that is manning the offense. Because of that, I think this situation will work out better than Philly. Jacksonville is in a very good position. And I understand right now they don't have a standout receiver. But in Doug Peterson's tenure with the Eagles, they didn't have either. I mean, when they won the championship, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Nelson Aguilar, none of them had over 900 yards receiving that year. None of them. Zach Ertz was their leading receiver. The Jaguars don't have a great tight end, so they have to address that. But I think with a core of Marvin Jones and Shenault and Chark, if he comes back the same that he was before, Doug Pederson can work with this core, and we might even see a breakout year from Dan Arnold. You know, he's a guy that's a pass catcher.
I like that. I like that.
When he gets some volume, he can produce. You don't know. So you don't know. I think Doug Pederson does a really good job at scheming up the tight ends
for sure.
Lawrence said this about Pederson. He's an offensive guy, played quarterback in the NFL. All of those things make me really excited. And it's something that I'm just excited to get to work with him and see what he brings to the table. They hired Mike McCoy as the quarterback's coach. He's a former head coach with the Chargers. He has been around the NFL. Mike Caldwell, who was the Buccaneers inside linebacker coach, is hired as their defensive coordinator. And he was a huge reason as to why Devin White had a pretty good rookie season. He dropped off in his second year. I think they're assembling a pretty good staff. Lawrence had a productive meeting with Pederson. I saw a video of both of them shaking hands, and it looked like a honeymoon. You know, Lawrence is just smiling, and Doug Pederson is smiling in slow motion, happy to have another NFL job because we know how scarce those are. The Jaguars have $57.3 million in cap space, the most in the NFL. They have 4 picks amongst the top 70. I think their offensive line is good. And I think Trevor Lawrence has one of the better pocket presences amongst the young quarterbacks.
Agreed.
The Jags had one of the best sack rates in the NFL. And that wasn't due to an elite offensive line. That's due to Trevor Lawrence being able to get the ball out quickly and escape sacks. They're in a good position. They have some young pieces in place already, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a pretty good second season. He's going to have an MVP level Wentz year. I don't know, but I can see the Jaguars finishing with the second best record in the AFC South. I think they're clear of Houston next season, and Indianapolis, I'm not sure what happens to them. I'm really not. I know that they need to add a playmaker. I'm not sure what happens to Wentz after he kind of fell apart after last season. I'm not sure where they go there. If Lawrence is who we all think he is, realistically, they could finish with the second best record in the AFC South. If he is who we think he is.
Yeah, that's probably their ceiling, though. I even still don't know, even with Wentz. I mean, their Colts defense was great, their offensive line, JT. But one thing about Doug Pederson, before we get off,
is playing.
ETN will be back. Yeah, James Robinson will be back at some point, too.
God willing.
When I was reading these reports, it seemed like Doug Pederson doesn't have a terrible personality from what I saw. What I read was that he has a pretty low maintenance personality. After they won the Super Bowl, he wasn't seeking more power. You know, a lot of coaches, after you win, they want to go be like, I want to make personnel decisions. I want, a bigger voice in free agency or the draft. And from what I read, he didn't really ask for any of that. So I do think that it's good that he won't let his ego or anything get in his way. And it's also important that a lot of people contribute Frank Reich to Carson Wentz's success. I think it's important to note that Wentz had good seasons even after Reich left. We mentioned the 2018-2019 season, so it's not like Doug Pederson needed Frank Reich there or something to really bring the most out of Wentz. I know that might be something that Jaguars fans worry about because I feel like that's kind of a mainstream narrative that goes around because Wentz did regress a bit, but he was playing at an MVP level, so it's not shocking to see him have some sort of regression the next season or two, and maybe he just was never that great of a quarterback, just had a special season. And one thing that was interesting that when he was head coach, the Eagles went for it on the fourth down the most in the NFL. So I think this Jags team is going to be a very aggressive team. And we mentioned they need an identity. And very similar to the Chargers, who, they get scrutinized for going on fourth down a lot, but at least everyone in the locker room knows this is the way we play. We play aggressive football. So I think that's important that Pederson brings that over too.
This is how I have to think about it. Philadelphia has never seen a championship. This guy comes in, wins them a championship. They had a great team in place for sure. But this guy had the keys to the palace. He's the one that had the most control of the squad. This guy brought you your first championship. How is it that that's the case? They don't show you more respect by keeping you around a little bit longer. He was there 3 extra seasons. A guy who made Philadelphia history. I feel like that holds a little bit more leeway with or should at least hold a little bit more leeway with some organizations. This guy did one of the hardest tasks there is in sports. Brought you a championship. There's teams in the NFL that have never won one. So what had to go on for him to get the boot like he did?
It seemed like the front office and him had a disconnect more than anything in ownership. Because there was rumors that the front office wanted say in game management and play calling and stuff like that, where Pederson's like, that's my job. You guys assemble the team, but I'm the one who's going to be calling the plays and calling the shots once we're on the field. And then at the end, I don't really know. That Week 17 game against Washington definitely didn't help his case when it almost seemed like he was trying to lose, taking out Hurts and put it in their third-string quarterback too. So I think it was more of just ownership and front office wanting to go different ways, and I think Pederson felt the same way. It seemed kind of mutual.
Pederson only needs 3 wins to be 5th all-time on the Jaguars wins list as a head coach. He only needs 3 wins.
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
In Jaguars head coaching history, if Doug Pederson wins 3 games,
you're saying total wins.
Yeah, if he wins 3 games, he's 5th all time.
Wait, in postseason, he said?
No, wins, regular season wins.
Like his total wins from the Eagles and the Jags.
No, just the Jags.
You're lying.
What?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah,
bro.
They only had 5 head coaches. I'm like, what do you mean?
Doug Moran, didn't he just take them to? But they went to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I said 5th, not 1st.
Oh, all right. Wow. All right, that's not good. Are you sure?
Yeah, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6. They have 6 coaches. They've had 6 coaches in their history. Coughlin won 68 games. Jack Del Rio won 68. Doug Marrone won 22. Gus Bradley won 14. And then Urban Meyer and Mike Mularkey won 2 each.
Interesting.
So if Doug Pederson wins 3 games, he's 5th all time.
All right, useless stat you didn't know you needed.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Yeah, they only have 6 coaches though, so that's
what I was going to say. That makes sense.
I think 7. Well, 7 now because of him.
Yeah.
But
I also didn't get a chance to comment on your. We'll make it really quick. Them being the number 2 in the division. A lot has to happen this offseason for me.
They have, but they're set up to.
I think they have.
They are.
Like, look, I mean, you look at the corner.
The Colts have been a model of consistency for a few years now.
I understand, but ultimately, if you have a star quarterback, it overshadows a lot of deficiencies.
And what you're saying is 100% right. If Trevor Lawrence is who we think he is, that's fair.
Like, for example, I think Shaq Griffin, Tyson Campbell is a good cornerback duo. Andre Sisco, I hope he gets a chance next year. He's pretty good. Josh Allen, they have a star pass rusher.
No
Miles
doubt.
Jack, a star linebacker. Their offensive line is not bad. And if the receiving core is healthy with James Robinson and Travis Etienne, I mean, this could be a very good form.
And right now they're projected to take Evan Neal at number 1 overall.
The draft's going to be interesting because no one knows who's going number
This
1.
draft is one of the more
unpredictable
drafts, and I don't want to say
It's
not
because
very good
there's
because
no
I really haven't scouted it. But
the
really
quarterback
has.
talent isn't as strong, which is why people believe that it is hard to project.
especially after last year when we had 4 or 5 elite quarterbacks.
For sure.
Also, people have talked about Trent Bulk having like a lot of power within the organization. He doesn't have a great reputation. Every head coach that has worked under him has been fired. But the Jaguars are looking for a new head of football operations manager to manage the football operations, and the leading candidate is Rick Spielman, who was
That'd be a good hire.
with the Vikings. He was their GM for like 16 years, and he had success there.
They put together great rosters.
And he'd be managing the day-to-day stuff, at least like football operations-wise. So I think if they can get him, now you have a lot of trusted guys who have proven they could build winners in Jacksonville. And I don't think the Jaguars being bad is due to Shad Khan not wanting to win. Like, I think Shad Khan is a good owner. I think he wants to win. Just look at his son. Like, his son built a wrestling promotion that rivals WWE now in AEW and Tony Khan. And he's very passionate about his thing. I think Shad Khan really wants to win. He wants Jacksonville to be a great franchise. Unfortunately, he's just made some bad moves, but I don't think it's a lack of him trying. I think he just probably doesn't know what's going on, but it's not a lack of him trying. Like, I think Dan Snyder, it's because he just doesn't care.
Dan Snyder's just a bad person.
I think Shad Khan cares. He just hasn't got it right.
Yeah, he does.
So once the Jaguars get it right, I think they'll start trending in the right direction. It'll be like a snowball effect.